Hey ho, and what do you know? We have another great episode, another week of the Meadows and Makers podcast going on here. And as always, starting up the show, there's a little bit of technical difficulties. And so anyway, song playing through two sources. Ah, well, that would explain why it does the repeating and stuff. So, anyway, constant learning process, and I am dedicated to making it better. So, anyway, welcome to a new week of the Meadows and Makers podcast here on MSP Waves. And this is a show all about focusing on building, even though it might be totally crappy when you build something, and we try to focus on self-reliance and moving towards some solutions on becoming more self-reliant in your lifestyle. So that's what I'm all about here, and that's the big vision on why I worked with my buddy Jack Dub, who I just saw join. Welcome, Jack. Why I created this thing in the beginning with him is to talk about some of these solutions and to collaborate with people and hopefully inspire people to move in that direction themselves. So it's a big passion of mine is to use the current technology that we have at our hands and our fingertips to help transform our reality into a reality of abundance. And I think one of the big solutions to what's all happening in the world right now is to have people that are self-reliant and they can weather whatever storm comes their way. And what better opportunity to start than now? And so that's what I try to bring to you guys every episode. Once again, my name is Greg Dowd, and I am your host of the Meadows and Makers podcast, also known as Making Stuff, originally I'm on both the Steam and Hive communities, and I just made my first post on Hive 17 minutes ago. I keep saying that I need to post on Hive, and so I posted right before the show today. I know it's a total shit post, but anyway, just to get it going and get my feet wet in the Hive community and get started on Hive after the fork of the code and all that happened. And I was way behind in the community because I just dropped the ball. So hopefully it sounds like there's some issues going on the sound as far as mspwaves.com site goes. So I don't know what to do there. Are you guys hearing me in the Discord chat? If you guys could let me know if you can hear me okay in the Discord chat, that would be great. Let's see. Rondon says mspwaves.com is not showing up right now, but you can play it on the Vim stream. So Jack, you're saying it can hear you in Discord. That's great. So let's see. If somebody can put the link in the chat room for the Vim stream, that would be really good for the audience that is having a hard time listening to the MSP Wave site. So anyway, Maikos, thanks for being here, and we're talking about maybe coming out to visit you sometime. Ko was talking about that, and you're always welcome to come visit in Alabama. And so let's see, what are you working on today, brother? You're working on plant your flower bed and get some more okra. All right, cool. So, man, I'll tell you what, in Alabama, that okra really grows well. It almost grows like a weed. I remember planting it in my backyard when I was living in the city, and it just it grew like a weed. So anyway, let's see. Today, let's go ahead and get some housekeeping out of the way that I got to do for y'all. So this show, the views and opinions expressed on this show. Sorry, I got a little tongue tied there. The views and opinions that are expressed on this show are mine, and those are my guests, and they do not reflect on MSP Waves or the wonderful people that keep this operation going around here. So, with that being said, we can move on. The motto I have for this show, and one I like to carry in my heart and try to share with others, to get that good old mind-heart connection going, is that I will be an inextinguishable light of possibilities for myself and others, and that's just something as a mantra I hold, and whenever I can remember it, I share it on the show. So there you go. So this week I have planned. I have a few things planned. I have a pre-recorded interview for you guys that's going to come up about 40 minutes into the show with a really cool guy that I met at Anarchapulco, another one of my connections through Anarchapulco. And up until that point, I just kind of want to fill you guys in on some of my journey and some of the things that I've been up to recently. And I want to cover some of these things, and mainly the three topics that I wanted to talk. I have a few topics that I wanted to talk to you guys about. I just spun up my 3D printer again after it's been sitting for a little while, and I was moving it back and forth. I had it stored when I moved from the city, and I had it stored at my folks' place. And then the prosthetics shop was looking for designing some interesting attachments for different prosthetics, and so I thought, well, I'll just bring it into the shop and we can work on it from there. And then I realized that the way I had the 3D printer set up, I really needed to work on a few things, and that everything that I did to move the thing threw off all the little adjustments that you have to do to get the thing leveled out and working correctly. So anyway, we'll get into some of that, and we'll get into some stuff that I've been learning, some lessons that I've been learning as far as doing the 3D printing, and then I've been learning some other lessons with raising quail that I want to talk to you guys about, and then I've been helping a recent friend work on establishing his first solar power system, and I'd like to talk about a little bit of that with you guys today on the show as well. So we'll cover those topics, and then we will get into the interview with Joi Flores, who is the guest that I interviewed earlier this week. And we'll get into all that. And so welcome you all, and thank you for being here. I really appreciate you guys coming to show up. We got Crimson Clad, we got Jack, and we got Rondon. I saw Maikos joining in the chat there. And thank you for everybody else that's out there listening on the live stream. Wherever you be at in this digital realm, in this digital reality. So thank you for being here. And so to just keep you guys and let you know a little bit about what's going on in my life and everything that's been kind of happening, is that, once this whole hysteria happened, that kind of just really ramped up my getting some things going and getting some food planted and getting the off-grid homestead established. And so I sprung in, and this is part of the big plan for the property for a long while, was to get a shipping container so that I could have a place to store my tools and all the things that I've built up. And the future vision for my property, which is to become an educational area to bring people out to do hands-on workshops and to actually build a little makerspace down on my land down there and off grid. And Jack is saying It's snowy in Ontario. That's crazy because it is cold in Alabama. I'll tell you what, it is. It was getting down to the frost temperatures, and they're saying it's going to frost tomorrow. So let's see how that goes. And it's not. I got to get some plastic over the recent plants that I just put out there. And so this is really strange for Alabama. It's crazy. And it's actually snowing like a blizzard in Ontario right now. Wow, damn. That is that is amazing for May. That's what I'm saying. We're about to get into June here, and it's still cold. So wow. I mean, I this is really catching me off guard. I'll tell you what. Usually in Alabama we have you're pretty safe on planting right after Easter, and so it is it's throwing me for a loop here. But anyway, so that's a little bit about what I've been doing, and I got the shipping container delivered, and I learned a bunch of lessons doing that. And just a real quick lesson learned from that whole experience was you want a good you want a good distance for the truck driver to drop off your your shipping container because they need a good place to drop it off and then pull out and drive through. So you need a nice dry gravel or concrete area where they're going to drop this thing off. And something to consider when they're going to drop this thing off is that these guys can't drop off onto any type of platform or concrete pillar or anything like that, which is something that I learned. I thought I was going to do this whole fancy concrete pillar thing right away and have the guy back up his trailer and set it down on the concrete pillars and pull out. Well, that's just not how these trailers are set up. So I learned my lesson there. What I should have done was, and what we ended up doing, we had to go through a whole process of moving the shipping container by putting telephone poles under the thing and then hooking it up to my 4-wheel drive truck and putting chains on it and doing all this stuff to maneuver it in the right position. And we made it work out. And what would have worked out better is if the truck driver would have just been able to pull straight into the position that I wanted the shipping container and have him just set it down on some temporary boards and then come in with some hydraulic jacks and then jack the thing up to the level that you want. And then you can either pour your own pillars in place or set your own concrete blocks down or however you're going to do it. But that ended up being the way I did it was we moved it into position and then we used some hardwood blocks that I had cut with the chainsaw and that my buddy Robbie helped hook me up with. We jacked that sucker up and then we poured some concrete pillars in place, and that ended up working real well for me. So if you're going to get a shipping container, those are some considerations, some lesson learned from me, and some things that you can carry on into the future for what you're trying to do if you're trying to do a shipping container project or something like that. And I'll tell you what, they are a really great little thing to have and really easy to get, started with something on a piece of property. It's an instant shelter. So it's waterproof and all that kind of stuff to get something set up pretty quickly. So hello, Fox Coed. I don't know if I ever say your name right, but thank you for being here, man. And good to see you in chat there. So just talking a little bit about what's been going on. If you guys know, if you've been hanging out for the podcast and hanging out every week, you kind of have an idea what all's been going on with what I've been doing in my life. So this is just kind of to share out there for anybody else that's just tuning in or may not be familiar with what I got going on and everything. So this is kind of a catch up on what all's been happening. So I got pulled up on the live stream here. I got the little pallet garden that I helped my folks make, and that's we're doing this deep mulch method of gardening. It's like the back to Eden garden method. If nobody's familiar with the back to Eden garden method, you guys can go out there and look that up. Back to Eden garden method, it utilizes wood chips, where you're chipping wood from trees that might be taken down in your community, and you can get those wood chips for free a lot of times, because the companies that go and do tree service will chop up and make wood chips, and a lot of times they'll have to either take them they'll have to take them to the dump, or they can, if you go talk to them, you might be able to get them to drop it off on your property. But the whole idea behind the wood chips is, as they decompose, they're creating some compost for you and creating a soil layer underneath. And when they're decomposing, you're creating an environment where the fungi and all that can come and help decompose your wood chips. And those fungi help to retain moisture in there, and it all just kind of helps with not having to worry so much about watering and everything. So you can do this as it's somewhat of a permaculture technique to be able to create a way to retain moisture and build compost and build the soil, and build the carbon into the soil. So it's something we're experimenting with. And Jack, you're asking if the wood chips are deep enough, and you've read that you can raise the yearly temperature of that area. Well, good question, and that's something that we're going to be experimenting with this season. I've never done this type of garden method before, so we're going to see how it works out. It's something I've been reading about, and we're going to see how well it works out for my folks here. They're the type that they don't like to water, and the soil around here is really crappy. So the soil is really hard clay, and we would have had to bring in a lot of soil. So we got about, I think we got about 4 inches of a layer of these wood chips in here, and we're gonna test this method out this season, and we'll see how I'll be reporting the results in the blog and trying to keep people informed on how well this is going to work out. Another method that we're looking into is the roof stout gardening method, where you lay down straw. You lay down grass and straw, and you just keep layering the straw, and it does with the same effect. So I plan on doing that down at my little, on my land at the Tinker Tribe property, and reporting on how well that's going to work out, and just get some beds prepared for this fall is what is going to happen. And it's going to be ready for the following spring. So that's the whole. So I'll go ahead and lay the straw down now, and then we're going to plant in it next spring, and I'll prepare a few beds that way. And then I'm going to do some raised beds with some logs down there, and do some planting that way as well. And so look out for that. But so far, got this going, and we got the aquaponics little system set up at the folks' place, and all that stuff is going to be coming down to my property as well. So I'll have my own aquaponics system down on the land, and I'm going to be working with Robbie on building his first system of his design for the urban and suburban design, which he calls the urbanite aquaponics system. And that'll be down on my land to help get that going down there. It'll be small enough that we can demonstrate how you could run an aquaponics system totally off grid, and you can keep that going on an off grid type property, and get that all set up as a demonstration for that system, and be able to show and take it around with me to different places around the country as the big vision for the whole thing. So that's something that I'm working on with Robbie, and that leads me into what I just got started on and got the 3D printer cranked up for is a little part that Robbie designed. And what this is it's a coupler piece to go into an aquaponics system. And the whole idea behind this is the work of Gerald Pollack in the creation of structured water. And if you go and look up Gerald Pollack, you'll see his lectures on what he calls easy water, which is a different state of water where it carries a negative polarity in its charge. And it's around the concept of when you have a material that is hydrophilic, where it's attracted to water is attracted to the surface, you get this phenomenon that's created where you get this layer that is formed of this different type of structure of water, and it carries this negative charge with it. So thinking on this idea, and Robbie's had some anecdotal evidence showing that when you're vortexing water in an aquaponics system, that it really helps to increase the growth of plants and the entire health of the system. And when you get into that information with Gerald Pollack, the background and the biology is that once you have this negatively charged water that's surrounding the membranes of the cells, it essentially allows the cells to do less work because you're supporting the cells with this negative charge surrounding the cells and all of their other surrounding cells. And so there's this repulsion of between each one of the cells, and it allows the cells to do their jobs more effectively on eliminating waste and all this different type of stuff that normal cell function is doing. And they can do their processes and use their energy, and typically when that happens, the cell kind of gets worn out and gets all wrinkly and all kinds of stuff. And the demonstration of this easy water and this negatively charged water surrounding a hydrophilic surface like the membranes of the cells is that the cell can go and do their processes, and then they spring back easier because there's all this repulsion around the cell, and it helps it spring back, and it gets really springy. And so, anyway, saying all that, it just helps it helps that the cells grow better and do more better. So, helps cells do more better. So anyway, that's why Robbie created this little design. It's a little coupler for the purpose of helping the water vortex in the system. And so, he came up with this design. We're gonna 3D print it, and we're gonna be experiencing how this all works out, and doing some experiments and doing some tinkering. So that's why I fired up the 3D printer, and this is a view of that first print of that design. And me, being the tinkerer that I am, I'm making mistakes, and this first print I printed too small, and it's meant to be a 2-inch coupling for a 2-inch standard Schedule 40 PVC, and I printed it too small. So this little print is a learning experience, and I learned a couple things that I needed to change, and one of them being some supports for the inner structure for the spirals that are being created in there. When the print started, and when it got to the point where it was starting the spiral, the print never had any support structure for the beginning of the first lip and the spiral. So what happened is that the 3D printer is trying to print in air. And so it took off from the structure in the previous layers it had been printing on, and the plastic is being extruded into a point where there's no surface to add a new layer to. So when that happens, you're printing plastic in air, and it just falls down. And so that was something that I need to change for the next print and the next go around on this, so that the lip, where the coupler in the PVC is going to meet the lip, is going to be there, and it's not going to have an issue of printing in nothing space. So so that's a lesson learned from that whole process. And then a big lesson learned on getting the 3D printer cranked up again is that I'm running the whole 3D printer on this little Raspberry Pi 3 little computer, and it's running a software called Octopi. And Octopi allows you to run your 3D printer from any device that's connected to your home network, and you can log into the device via the internet. So, hey, little scribe, thank you for joining us. Yes, we're talking a little bit about what I've been up to and some of the stuff that I've been working on. And I printed a little prototype. This is a prototype for an aquaponics system. It's a little coupler to help vortex water. So that's what I'm talking about right now. And thanks for joining. And so anyway, this little Raspberry Pi makes it really nice and simple for you to command your 3D printer from. You could even be somewhere completely different and get a print started, and there's a way to connect a little webcam to the device so that you can look at your print live on your 3D printer while you're out and about and doing some other stuff. And so it allows you to walk away from the thing and still be able to monitor it, because there's always issues that can come up when you're doing this type of 3D printing. And you could actually create some conditions where your 3D printer wants to tear itself apart, especially mine, because mine is a DIY kit that I got. I got it from these rep wrap guys that have been putting out Rep Wrap Prusa i3, which is an open source 3D printer, and they sell these kits. So mine is a completely DIY little kit that I built from scratch, I built from their instructions and everything like that. And so it's not all clean and nice and neat like the ones that you can buy right off the shelf. And so there's been a lot of advancements in 3D printing, and there is one of the cheapest ones and most reliable ones out there is the Creality Ender Pro, I believe. And this is one of the ones that my good buddy that also is into 3D printing, you can buy them for like $200, I think. And the prices may have even come down from there from since I last looked into it. But my good buddy Robert, who I've had on the podcast in the past, that he got one of those, and he got printing right away. And it's a really easy interface to get going, and you can do everything that you want to do, and it's pretty much ready to go right out of the bat. You just do some assembly. When you receive the printer, you get it all set up, and you are pretty much ready to go, printing right away. So that's something to check out if you're interested in getting into 3D printing. It's becoming more available for the public to get involved in 3D printing. So check it out if you're interested in that. The Creality Ender 3 Pro. But just going back to this Octopi software, there's a whole deal and tutorials that I had to go through on how to get this thing cranked up again, and how to change the thing over to a new Wi-Fi network, which just involves changing some text files in the computer and on the operating system. So what I had to do is I had to download a little program called Notepad++ for Windows, which allowed me to go into the code and onto the network settings file, and to just change the SSID for the network name, so that the device would know what network to connect to, and the network password. And so you just had to go into the text editor and change those things. And I had to do that through Notepad++. And then the Octopi guys have a really good tutorial out there, and an FAQ that helped me get through being able to connect to the network and get that all set up and going. And another thing to consider that I ran into on this is that the Raspberry Pi 3 has a wireless capability, but the wireless capability can only work if you have a good enough little power supply, and you need at least a 5-volt and a 2.5 amp power supply for your USB for it to enable the Wi-Fi. And so I still need to get one of those, and that held me up from connecting to my wireless network with Raspberry Pi, and I had to do a straight Ethernet connection. So you can do an Ethernet connection, and that you can have it hardwired into your network, and that way you can still access this thing, and it just doesn't have that wireless capability. So that's what I ended up having to do while I look for one of those little power supplies that can give me 5 volts and 2.5 amps, so that I can connect wirelessly. But yeah, I had to do a couple of things, like get into the computer. I had to hook up a little monitor, and then I had to do some type in some coding so that I could access and change some settings in the thing. Another thing that I had to do was create a new password. I had to eliminate the old password that I had on the device for remote access, and then I had to go into the code, change a couple things for that, and reboot the whole thing. So I've got a whole little tutorial that I did and I worked on a while back that I'm going to write and I'm going to put on my blog, and about the whole process. So if anybody wants to hook up an Octoprint to a 3D printer, maybe it'll make it a little easier for them to do that. And then if you ever move it from a wireless network to another wireless network or something like that, it might help some people out there that are trying to do that. So anyway, just cranked that up for the first time yesterday and was really excited, and just happy to have that 3D printer working again, and that I can be playing around with it some more and working on some prototypes for what we're doing with aquaponics and some other homesteading stuff. So if you got some cool things or something that might be cool to 3D print, maybe we'll do a little contest in the future, and we'll get somebody a cool little 3D printed thing. What do you guys think about that? Let me know in the chat what you guys think about something like that. And I think that might be pretty fun. So anyway, so that's one of the things that I've been working on, and then one of the other things is that I've been working with my buddy Dimitri, and he's been helping me get some quail. And now this is a view of what he's got going on. He's got a little operation going on at his place, and he's got several quail that he's raising right now, and he's been learning lots of lessons. And so what you're looking at here, if you're looking at the live stream, is you're looking at a picture of how he's got his quail operation set up. And so using some old shelving from the prosthetic shop, when we moved the whole shop, he was able to custom build this little quail setup from lessons from other people online, and it's a more automated way of collecting their poop. He's got little shelves underneath that are removable, so it's going to catch all their poop and everything. and the cages are angled so that when they're laying their eggs, the eggs roll out into this little tray that he can just come by daily and he can pick up his little eggs. And uh, so he's got that all set up, and he's also got an automated water system going on in this thing, where he's got these little cups connected to a half-inch piece of PVC, and then all of that connects to a 5-gallon bucket where the gravity is feeding the water into these little cups, and that is a more automated system than going in there and replacing their water every day and having to do all that. He can do it in one area. He doesn't need to go into the cages and disturb and stress out the quail. And it's all set up so that they can just easily go, and once they've figured out how to get the water out of the little cups, then they're good to go, and they can just go and get water whenever they need it, and go about their business of their living their quailness. And another lesson learned from getting the quail raised and everything like that is that the quail are quite messy eaters if you don't set it up right. What the quail like to do is if you let them, they'll get all up in the food and they'll scratch it all around, and they'll try to get their beaks into the food, and they'll spray it all over the place, and they'll just spray and pray all this food all over. So as you can see in this little, if you can see in this little picture, he's got a couple little metal feeders in there that are entering into the quail's little cage set up there. And that feeder has little mesh sections on the inside, and he could just add the feed from the outside of the cage, so that he doesn't have to disturb the quail at all. And that cage on the inside keeps them from moving their beaks all over the place and just spraying the feed all over. So this was a big lesson learned for being able to feed the quail and getting it all set up so that it's less of a hassle. So he's got this in a little 10 by 10 shed, and he's got this so that he can be able to provide eggs for his family and for his daughter, who has a food allergy to regular chicken eggs. So quail eggs can help people that may have allergies to chicken eggs, which does happen. So little scribe, you're asking, can you 3D print a quail? Yeah, I could 3D print something quail looking. Can I 3D print quail poop? Yeah, I could. Something that looks like quail poop. And that often happens when I don't set my 3D printer up right. So hey, Philip, and you got to go to bed, but hey, we'll catch you later, man. And so quail, that's what's been going on. I mean, I'm getting my feet wet with raising quail. I got some of my own, and I got 40 of them. And so I'm on the journey to being partly raising my first little set of quail. And I did have chickens in the past, and I was raising some chickens, and I intended to get into that with this whole hysteria that's been going on has really slowed down, and they've shut down some of these meat processing plants. And so, it's been my part of my vision for a while is to get into raising meat chickens, and so that's going to be part of what I get going here pretty soon with the quail. I would be doing quail eggs and be doing some meat chickens. So that's something that I plan on getting into with these Cornish crossbirds, and aiming to do like 25 different or 25 meat birds, and they have a really quick turnaround time. This is something that I've been reading about in Joel Salatin's book, You Can Farm, that pastured poultry and meat birds, where you can kind of move them around in your on your property. and they'll eat up bugs and different things on the grass, and you don't have to give them as much feed, and you can get a really quick pasture poultry operation going. Yeah, meat chickens, little scribe, just to get some good protein source, and then they're a really quick turnaround time as opposed to egg chickens where you have to wait at least 6 months if you're starting them off from chicks. If you want the eggs, that you need at least 6 months until they go into egg production. And so I plan on having both egg chickens and the meat birds. So yeah, there's a specific type of species of these meat chickens, which they're a Cornish cross variety, and they are they're kind of genetically engineered so that they grow really fast, and at the end of 8 weeks they're ready to go. So that's one of the things with these guys. So Jack, you're asking, I wonder if quail would eat coffee beans whole, and you could do some premium coffee beans. Yeah, I don't know. That'd be interesting, man. Um, so yeah, those are some things that I've been working on, and also I've been helping out a buddy of mine who's looking to start his first little solar power system, and helping him get all designed up for that. And what he's looking to do is he's going to do like an 800-watt system, and it's going to power a few things in his shop. And so we've been looking out and have been helping him spec out the whole system and everything like that. And what he's going for, and what he started off with, and I know Jack, I think this is something that you started off with, was these Renogy panels. And so he went out on the Renogy website and he found himself a couple of starter kits, and that's what he's going to start with. He's just going to start with these the little starter kits, and we're talking about how he can expand his system and go on the difference between a Pwm charge controller and an MPPT charge controller. And that's a little bit of what I wanted to talk about, was just that difference between those two different charge controllers. So these Pwm charge controllers, what they do is they're waiting for the voltage to get to a certain level from the incoming solar power, and then they're running just a really simple charge regime. And the difference between those and the MPPT is that the MPPT, when the sun's just beginning to rise in the sky in the morning, you're collecting a small amount of that solar energy, but there's not you're not being able to produce what the power is rated for those solar panels to produce, the maximum amount of voltage that they're going to put out. And what that MPPT does is it allows you to store some of that power that it's going to trickle into some capacitors. And then once there's enough power stored in those capacitors, it's going to bleed it out at the point where it can get into get into your battery bank. And the PWM, it can't do that. It's just gotta wait till there's enough sun so that the panels are producing enough voltage to be able to push the charge into your battery bank. So yeah, Jack's just saying those MPPT chargers are worth it, and he's saying that his was trickling in full moonlight. So yeah, it's pretty cool to be able to see that going into the full moonlight. And so Jack, he is running, and he got the monocrystalline panels from Renogy, and that's what he's getting set up for. And he got that and some of these PWM charge controllers, and the first thing he did, the first thing he's been doing with it is he's getting it set up so that he can just be able to charge one of his deep cycle marine batteries. and that was the first thing to test on it. And one of the things that I love is that, it's so empowering, and it's just such an empowering feeling once you can be able to produce some of your own power. It's an empowering to have power and know that you could just create a system and start extracting power from our environment. And it's just a really cool feeling to know that you can have that ability to do that. And what I love to see, and what I've been seeing from some people that are in my Discord community and my Discord channel. And I have one buddy that's around me locally that's just started with a little Harbor Freight system, and just learning how to have the thing charge a battery and then be able to run it some things like one of these little inverters off of the battery. And how cool that is just to do that and to set something small up like that, so that you can learn how the whole system, and you learn how the concepts work behind the system. And so that's what I recommend to everybody, is just go out there, maybe start with one of those maybe start with a single panel, a single 100-watt panel, or one of these little Harbor Freight little systems, just so that you can figure out how the whole concept of everything works, and get yourself what Jack Dub you started off, or you use the deep cycle batteries that you can. I believe you're using those deep cycle batteries, right, in your system, that you can find locally. Either the marine batteries or the I think the deep cycles are those lead acid marine batteries, but you can find those pretty much anywhere locally, and they're plentiful around where most people are at locally. So you can go out and pick some of those up, and get started with the system. And so just teach yourself, the basics on how the whole thing, to set up the whole thing. And look out, there's lots of different tutorials online on how to get things going. So yeah, Jack's got 80 amp hour deep cycle marine batteries, and they're all 12 volt, I think 12 volt, 80 amp hours. And so yeah, if people are interested in learning a little bit more about the solar power systems, I would love to hear you, and to hear what you guys think about it, and if you think it would be cool to have a show maybe dedicated to a full rundown on maybe getting your first little system started. I know we've talked about this stuff in the past, and we've kind of glossed over some of the stuffs in the system, but if you guys think that might be helpful for you, let me know, and I'd like to create some videos and some stuff about that. And some tutorials about it. So, with all that being said, I want to shift gears here, and that's just what I've been up to here recently. Like I said, I got my first little post out on the Hive, blog, and so I got up on that, and I'm keeping my word on getting out a first blog post, and was able to use it to kind of format the show today, and so there you go. There's a little bit of what I've been up to. And so I'd like to go ahead and shift gears now and play a pre-recorded interview that I did with a contact that I made from Anarchapulco 2020, Joi Flores. He is a telecommunications he has experience with the telecommunications profession, and he's down in Latin America. And he's traveled all over with that career. And so we had a really good conversation about some interesting stuff on how to create some local economies, and really create some robust local economies that bypass the whole system, and to create some mesh networking in communities. So this is a really cool interview that I really enjoyed, and I'm going to go ahead and cue this up for you guys, and I'll be here to answer any questions. If you guys want to, just laugh at me in the comments, or just like hang out and chill. I'm gonna be here hanging out and chilling, and with all you guys in the comments as I play this pre-recorded interview for you guys. So without further ado, this is an interview with Joi Flores and myself. So here we go.
Making some tidying up this place. How are
Oh,
you?
hey. Yeah, I'm doing well, man. How are you doing?
Excellent. Well, in what we can do now, but yeah. Anyways,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
how was your the you were there giving a conference a few hours ago?
Yeah, yeah. I was in the middle of a live broadcast, and you sent me the message, and I wasn't able to catch it during the live show. So I was going to bring you on for the live show today if you were available, but it just
Damn it.
yeah, it just didn't work out. But hey,
Okay.
now that I got you here, man,
Yes.
let's do the interview if you have some time.
Yes. Sure. Of course. Okay. Let me just
Okay.
get another room and less noise. Well, I'm ready. So, do you want to have any questions, or do you want me to just talk about what we are doing?
Yeah, I have a list of questions for you, and I just kind of like to get to know you a little bit better.
Great.
And so, my show is all focused on people that are trying to become more self-reliant, and I like to just give people solutions and knowledge that they can do to kind of move in that direction. And so, what I always like to do with the guests on my show is just start off by having you to introduce yourself a little bit. And we got to talking at Anarchapulco this year, and you came up to me and said that you had some solutions that you were working on in your area, and I believe you're in Ecuador, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And
Yes. Exactly.
awesome. And so, yeah, so I always like to start off these shows with having my guests introduce themselves and to tell us a little bit about who you are and
Great.
what you're all about.
Okay. Excellent. So, well, my name is Joi Flores. I'm from Ecuador, from Guayaquil. I studied telecommunications. I had the opportunity to work for a company that sent me to travel around Latin America and United States, and once to Europe. So I have been traveling like for 8 years. All those travels have helped me a lot to understand these kind of problems, because to see the lies, you see all of the things that you thought were common or were normal that are not really normal in some other places. And well, after a while working on that place, I remember when I was in the United States was the first time I heard about Bitcoin. And that was when Bitcoin was really, really low. I mean, it wasn't even, it was 2 digits. It's been a long way. So the first time, as everyone else, as most of us, I think, I didn't understand it the first time. After 2 years later, when I was again in Ecuador, I heard again the name Bitcoin, and I saw that it was not anymore 2 digits, but three. So that caught my attention. Once I started studying, I started following a lot of people that were already on the Bitcoin community for long before, like Max Kaiser. I even got one of my first Bitcoin from this guy. A lot of people know him, and some people don't like him, but well, I mean, I'm talking about this guy who nickname was Bitcoin Jesus, Roger Beer. I remember he was on a documentary talking about Bitcoin and how easy it was to transfer money from one place to another, and doing that in front of making example on the documentary, and he said, if you can scan this code now, you can have the $100 worth of Bitcoin. And I tried to do that, but obviously it was too late.
Ah,
It was already spent. So I sent an email to him about that, and the guy was very kind to send me like $5 worth of Bitcoin to my first wallet. So that was the beginning. So, and after that, when I got the conclusion that this thing is what we need, or it's the best tool we have right now, and I went all in. Well, at that time, I had my job. I keep working to pay bills and buy my stuff. But obviously, I spent some of that money in Bitcoin. And since that day, and I think that most of us has been to that road that you start telling your friends, expressing what you do. Nobody believes you. Nobody wants to know first, and then after when you bother them so much, they at least they don't mock you, but they listen. I mean, so there was a time when I was well looking a lot of other cryptocurrencies, and I met some like Litecoin, Decreed, Ethereum, on all the first ones, the ones that at least the first 5 years of the cryptocurrency world. And I was like, I remember this project called Decreed that has a platform like called Politelia, where people get to have a vote or have a say in which enhancements for the protocol and things like that. And I'm not a developer. I mean, before Bitcoin, I probably would never have imagined any of this. Seriously, that thing is like it opens your mind like a parachute, and it's amazing. And well, after I started imagining, because at the same time I was listening to a lot of people, not from the technology, the technical part, not from the tech people, but the economy part. Because Bitcoin involves not only technology but economy and some other. Like Nakamoto said, is created from the point of view of a libertarian. I see it more like an anarchy, but probably a libertarian is just somebody who needs just to read like 2 or 3 more hours to become an anarchist.
yeah,
Just that.
yeah.
Um, and one of the ideas that I remember I was talking with, I was looking all of these documentaries about the financial collapse and all the how was the Federal Reserve created, and all of those guys that were popping up on those documentaries talking about those things. I immediately started following them on Twitter, on Facebook, on every other platform they are. And one of them gave me an idea. Well, it was like four or five. Well, like four or five. At the end, now I'm going to talk about the solution that I we are proposing for the problem. One of the I remember once I met a good friend of mine called Jim Davidson. He is in Twitter, Planetary Jim, and the guy has a lot of experience. It's like 80 years old man, and has been traveling all of his life, and he is somebody that doesn't care to start from zero over and over again, even though he is getting older and older, and the guy is just amazing. So he told me he thought he sorry he gave me all the indications in order to put the idea to show them to an investor, because the guy was at the when he was young, he was a fund manager in Arkansas. No, sorry, in Kansas.
Okay.
And pretty good. I mean, I didn't know any about those things, but it was a good way to show other people that are more technical, the non-technical people, about the idea and make them understand the whole process, but keeping in mind that they are going to receive a good return about it. So because at the beginning when we started, I was talking with a lot of developers, and those were almost 1 year that I tried to reach people like and people that are really famous on the Bitcoin community, like Kansur or Loop. I tried all of those. I think you know them, right? All of the crypto anarchists or cypherpunks. But that was very difficult because the idea at the moment it was just like let's make like an extension to Bitcoin, so in case somebody wants to use that extension can use it. But at the time wasn't even Bitcoin was used a lot, so
Okay.
the developers weren't so. Also, we didn't get to start anything. It just was a few conversation. But if I met this guy, I met the
So
I mhm.
so sorry, Joy. Could you tell me again who the guy that you met was? What you said it was name is Planetary Tim.
Yes.
Okay.
No, he introduced me to a lot of people. I remember when I met him via Twitter. I haven't met him in real life. We have
Okay.
been talking like this via video conferences all of this time, and yeah, I was in a Twitter group with him at the time when I first met him, and they were having a conversation about forming communities, buying land in South America, far from the city, but near some road or something close a town, in order to live with a lot of people, but forming communities, nature. And they had this big problem that they don't have any technology there. If they live together, but obviously not in the same place, but at least with between a range of, I don't know, probably 20 meters or 100 meters between them, and they didn't have how to communicate. There was no cell phones, towers, there no landlines, no internet, no anything. So I came up with a small solution for them. What was the solution? Was to create a small device with, for example, the computer will be a Raspberry Pi with a small, with a big but a small, obviously, in space disk for the database and for all of the programs, with an antenna, with a Wi-Fi antenna like the Gotena antenna that is really very, very useful because it has like 12 kilometers of reaching to the other points. So the device like that is just for everyone to have that device on their homes, and they connect through Wi-Fi to create these mesh networks between them and run a small software so they can organize their resources when they need something to be done. For example, if they want to create a bridge, if they want to build a bridge, or somebody wants to build a bridge to the other side of a river, and the guy doesn't have all of the uh, tools or and materials, he just has to put all of the projects of what he wants to do, and that like in Bitcoin, make a broadcast to all of the nodes, and people will say, "Oh, this guy wants to do something that is going to be for the benefit of the whole community." And so they started to find. I have some shovels. I have some wood that could be used, and all of the list that they have. The people around the community has to complete that list, and then after the list is completed, someone has to go to each place for receiving those items and taken to the final destination where the bridge is going to be built. So that was the idea at that moment. 5 minutes later, I got one idea that when this core idea was also how do I say this, applicable. It's that it could be applied. It could be applied in whole cities in Latin America. That was like wow. I mean, if we wanted to buy groceries, and there is a lot of people with a lot of products around my house,
Yeah.
they don't have, for example, one of them probably they don't have all of the ingredients that I need. But if I choose from 20 or 10 of them, I could complete the whole list or
Yeah.
even have more. So that is the LaTienda. Just that. So in order to organize resources for the users, and the people who have the resources are the ones that have the storage for those products. So what are we doing right now? We have already created the company. Is what it is established on Ecuador, because this is the important part. I think I want your opinion about it, because most of a lot of anarchists, definitely they are very smart people. There's no other way to put it. So if you have been indoctrinated your whole life, and then you get to the realization of that and became an anarchist, that takes a lot of brain. And but the problem is that there wasn't like because we have that big wall, that big obstacle that is over governments, and nobody, and you cannot even put a foot on whatever project you want to do if they are not there present, if they don't make some regulations and they are asking for taxes and all of that. So government is in the middle of everything. So that is something that Jim told me, that it could be better, because if you are going to do this and if you're trying to go to the end, you don't have to fall in any problem at the beginning, and try to always have the control of the company, because there will come the time that the government is going to start to ask you. In the United States, they are doing that, right? They are not. They are buying stocks of the companies. Or, well, some companies, I guess. So that's something that we are we don't want that. We want to get rid of government, not government come here and try to get rid of us.
Right. Right.
so the so the do you have any question?
Yeah, so what you're saying is that you're trying to create some kind of maybe software uh, or something that can help connect people that have these different things, and create a new communications platform so that people even in remote areas and things can communicate and still be able to trade or uh, find the things that they're needing and coordinate that kind of stuff.
Exactly. So the thing is that we create this company, and the good things, and there are a lot of good things. One of the important things is that we had the chance. For example, let's say that you are going to sell light bulbs, and you got the chance to, well, to get your company called Light Bulbs. So we have that big brand here in Latin America, that we are very different. These countries have very people is very different. For example, from Colombia to the Argentina, you can see it. They don't look the same. They don't eat the same. They don't talk the same. But they have something in common, that this is a family business that runs in every corner in the city. And there are a lot. There are a lot in Ecuador. Are 98% of the whole companies established there. So that's a big number. And and that is a market that nobody sees, that nobody's seeing right now. But well, who are our customers? First, we want to digitalize the whole supply chain, making more local. And in the case for the farmers that live away from the city, that could have the exact amount, so they don't produce waste to grow food for entire cities. So our customers will be the producers, the retailers, and the end customers, that are the guys who want to buy the groceries. And we obviously have to make a lot of calculation, and this is a lot of let's see, automation or intelligence per se of how are we going to distribute all that food. For example, one of the things is that when we get to the adoption of, for example, one city, we know how are the food, the products being consumed. As we know how they are being consumed, for example, in 1 month, we can project that number for the next 3 months. So we can be sure to ask the farmers to increase their production in order for us to have the enough stock for the next 3 months. That's one of the problems we want to solve. So once we get the adoption and people start to use the application, we're going to make an upgrade, because at the beginning we are going to use and we are going like to play by the rules, make the company, create the software, register the mark, everything is going normal. But there will come a time when we have to make an upgrade to the network, and that upgrade to the network will include a small device, that device that I was talking about to create the mesh network. That is our first long-term goal, in order to have at least Latin America between a new internet, between a new one, let's per se, with all of these devices. So they will start using the devices normally for the application to buy and to sell food, but we are going to run on that network more protocols or more tools for anarchists. So people will start to use those tools, that will start to learning how to use those tools. And when we see, and that this is something that I see it this way. For example, most of the people, or better said, our most important obstacle is ignorance, because there are people that don't know what is happening. Because if they knew, they will start looking for some solutions like we are. But as they don't know, that ignorance is a big obstacle. And even worse, because there are people that they don't want to know. So if you reach them and start talking about this, they are going to say, hey, no, you're a conspiracy theorist. I don't believe you, and things like that. So it's very difficult. And the solution for that problem will be education. I mean, if you can send a message so they can understand immediately, because I have done it, as I told you, I started to travel around when I was working for a company, and at the time I was studying Bitcoin, and I was studying history and economics and and politics, and it was clearer for me because I had the time to review all that information. But then the other people that also don't have that possibility, I started to form a speech. So my first victims were the taxi drivers. When I went to another country, for example, to Colombia or to Brazil or to Mexico, once I got to the airport, I took a taxi to my hotel or the place I was going to stay, and that normally took like 1 hour, 40 minutes to 1 hour of a car drive. So it was more than enough. So I started like, hey, how are you? My name is Joi. I'm from Ecuador. What are you doing? What do you do? Hey, do you have time? I need to tell you a story. And then I started, and at the beginning was like 40 minutes to 1 hour. And the taxi drivers were always like, damn, they couldn't believe it. I mean, but you see that the face of sometimes of liberation, because you see like something like open some light, because finally they understand. And the others that they have in those beliefs very, very rooted on their brains, they put a face like of fear, because you're presenting to them new reality that they weren't expecting. But that speech, I could reduce those minutes until 10 minutes. I mean, if I have the chance to talk with anyone that doesn't even know about Bitcoin, I could make them understand the problem in probably 10 minutes or less.
Yeah, and that is a really difficult thing, and that is something that I've talked to another friend of mine that I recently made a connection with through the conference at Anarchapulco. He's gave a really good thing on how to educate his friends, and he said that is probably one of the most powerful ways of getting people to understand these ideas is to get them to learn how to make money.
Yes,
And
yes,
empower themselves economically with it.
and that is also difficult because most of the people are very conformist. If they have what they needed for the day, that's it. They
Yeah.
don't think for tomorrow or for the next week, anything. But another thing that I found that was really, really important in this process was to make them laugh. Why
Yeah.
remember I made, because you don't know if the guy is probably more of the left side of the politics spectrum, or if on the right side, or if the guy is very traditional. You don't know that. So I started to make a lot of jokes about politics, about economy, about all of these things that they want. And when you see when they laughed about those jokes, they laugh about their beliefs. So if I made a joke about the left and they laughed, good. And then after that, I made a joke about the right and they laughed too. So at the end, the guy said, It's important. I don't believe anymore, not in the left, not in the right. This is just some stupid games that somebody else set for us.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
and well, as you know, we have been doing this a long time in social media. Start talking about this on Facebook, on Twitter. Even my friends that I have met since I was a kid, they still have a hard time to understand and to accept, because they understand, they just don't want to accept it. Because if they accept this, they will have to accept also that their whole life just lie. It's just a joke. So that hurts.
Yeah.
And and
Absolutely.
yeah, and but the thing is that with all of these things, I have with all of these posts that I have been posting on Facebook, on Twitter. Some of my old friends that I have met like decades, they start to like the post, to share the post, to start sharing posts that are similar to mine or to other people around this movement. And I see the people started waking up. That this is something important. This lockdown, I think, has made more anarchists, and I have walked many people just like that, just to make them at their homes. But for those that has not that possibility, with LaTienda, what we want to do, once we have these devices all over the place and the people start using the application to buy food, and not only for that to buy food, because the application, the platform per se is to, the core idea is just to digitalize the supply chain and deliver food. But we are going to make, for example, social media embedded on that platform for the people who wants we want to make it, call it Foodstagram, because normally when people cook something very, very delicious, they take a picture and post it on Facebook. That the same thing, we are going to make it for the application, to you receive a like, you have comments on that, somebody is sharing your dish or your recipe, whatever, and you use the application not just to buy food, but you can use it every day for social. And we have also a news section. That is the important part for us, because in that news section, we are going to start giving them those seats. When somebody starts reading about the you present with a lot of news, right? And you see the people that are interested in things like growing your own food in your own garden, or trying to use cryptocurrencies. You see, they are unconsciously trying to break all of those barriers that make they have the in prison the anarchists that they have inside. So for those people that you see, I mean, imagine that you have one city and you start running the programs and people are starting to use your application, you send them those seeds to everyone, and you see who is, by the choices they make, who are the most close, who are closer to reach that conclusion, and we want to make to help them to reach that. So the idea is that we want to educate people, but unfortunately, we cannot reach all of them with the same message. So we have to find first who are ready to receive a simple message, and for the others to start giving their information. So when we know they are ready, or at least they are suspicious about what is happening, then that this is the whole show. So once they get to understand the problem, I think they will immediately ask for the solution. And that's where we are when we enter and we say, you know what? The solution, you already have it. In fact, you have been using the solution this whole time. Now, what you need to do and what we need to do is just stop paying attention to politicians. Stop playing their game. You don't even don't pay taxes, don't do anything. You just not only act like they never existed. Let them live their lives as they
Yep.
wish, and you and I and everyone here, let's build something better. And after that, in that application, we will give it, well, and it's really great that we have met, man. I mean,
Yeah. I'm on the same page as you. I really think that the solutions are, coming together as communities and really showing people that there is another way to live without having to do any interactions with the governments. And I love what you just said there, is that you're already living that way.
yeah,
You're not being forced or coerced to go and do and buy something from the store. You're not having somebody to come down on you to tell you how to live your life. You're living your life, and that's already a state of anarchy where you believe that
yeah,
you are your own personal sovereign, and that you can live life how you choose, and you interact with people peacefully and voluntarily. People are already doing that. It's just about realizing that the whole system is based on lies, and it's organized crime. Really,
yeah,
it's an
really,
organized crime syndicate. So yeah, and hearing you talk about this is I recently came across a guy. His name is Kent Dahlgren, and what he's done is created an application to do what you're talking about, where he provides this application to people that are looking to start a community, and all of the funds that are coming into the application of people using it is able to go towards the community and projects that the community are looking to work on. And so I'll definitely get you linked up with him so you guys can start talking to each other,
please.
because I think what you're talking about, this would be a really great application for what you're trying to do. And what you're trying to do with the GoTenna and creating the mesh networks with the Raspberry Pi and everything is super important, because I think we really need to have our own communication systems within our own communities like this.
Yeah, with
And
with any device compromise. I mean, this is the problem, because this cell phone, that switch, the other router, they all are compromised. They all have backdoors. They can shut your site down very easily, and that is something that we cannot allow. And I wanted to ask you. I mean, I wanted to ask you something, because I met a good friend called Bob Podolsky in
yeah,
Anarchapulco. You know the
yeah,
guy?
I
He's very
know him.
cool.
Yeah,
And also Michael Nimitz. He's
yeah,
also one of the organizers. And I met them on Anarchapulco, and we have been talking about this project this months, and we are arranging like a panel, for people who wants to contribute, collaborate, or want to help with this project. And I want to extend that invitation to you when we have the dates of that panel, just to in order to for us to express the whole idea, to give all the whole the, well most of the details we have, and you can ask us everything because we want to give this information to everyone.
I think I heard him, and because I've been participating in the Zoom chats between the guys in Acapulco and the community in Acapulco there, and this was brought up in one of the meetings was some kind of mesh network system. So I'm super
Cool.
interested in getting involved with that and helping out and contributing in whatever way I can. This is the whole purpose behind what I'm doing with the technologies and the things that I've been working on and the podcasts that I do is to really empower people with current technologies that are available right now to take the power to become more self-reliant in their lives and to basically, create the better system to leave this current one behind.
Yeah. I mean, and for the things, this is another thing that I wanted to ask you as a personal advice. Because I always start, and I'm a mathematician. I guess most of us like mathematics too because of Bitcoin or because we have been. There is one of my favorite writers. Is an Argentinian guy called Jorge Borges. The guy is an anarchist. He has very good books, and I remember he said in one of them, I considered intelligence or sorry, a good person with a higher intelligence, yeah, and a bad person, but somebody that does not have any intelligence. I mean, if he, and that's it. That's it. I mean, it's like, for example, you said, uh, I am number two. I am or number three, or number four, any number. You can say, are you a good number two or a bad number two? Well, in fact, there is no good and bad. If you are good, if you are number two and you said you are number two, you are being honest. That is, you are smart. An honest person is smart. But if you are number three and you said you are number two, you are not being honest. You want to make any and some other guy that knows mathematics is going to tell you, but you don't see like a number two. And that's it. People who lies, who is not honest in the beginning, is because they don't have enough thinking capacities to get what they want in life, I guess, and they try to take it from anyone, from all other people that are good. But for me, good is just to be honest, and
Yeah.
in order to be honest, you have to understand mathematics. That's it. It's true or it's false.
Yeah, well, I agree that knowledge is the ultimate way to free yourself and to keep acquiring knowledge and to like you said, take the time to do the research and to study these things, especially the economics, because it really all comes down to a lot of the ways that we're manipulated is through economics, and the way that a lot of people are fooled is through economic illiteracy, and people don't really truly understand that these banks are inflating their currency and taking away their purchasing power. They're essentially stealing from them.
Why corporations steal also from us and poison us and take all of the resources for them is just a organized crime.
Yeah.
Really, really well organized crime. So the question that I wanted to ask you is that as I said, I always start this conversation with everyone, telling them where we are going, because I think if we are not honest since the beginning, everything is going to fall apart at some moment. So
Yeah.
I always said to investors that I have been talking to and other people that I have been talking to that our goal is not to make money. Actually, that is just in the middle. In the middle is that phase in we make if we succeed in this phase, we probably will make billions. or trillions. But that is not our motivation. Our motivation is once we have all those billions and trillions, just like the Joker, set fire on those things. But then but then the investor is like, what did you say? I mean, it's like you were asking me for money in order to destroy the whole. Yeah, but unfortunately that is not something that I think I particularly will see. I probably that will be the case for the next generation, our sons, our grandsons, and all of that, you know. Because I get to imagine this thing. For example, if I wasn't born this day today, but for example 20 or 30 years in the future, and I start living my life as a normal people, and it happens that at the time when I was born in the future, I don't see poverty, I don't see wars, I don't know what is homelessness or hunger. All of those things are already vanished, were abolished. So when those people is starting to work and having all they want without any kind of let's say, because transactions there will always be. That's transactions are everywhere in the nature, in chemistry, in physics. There are always transactions, but the way the dynamic for that transaction to happen will be different. So when you want to buy something or when you want to acquire something, you won't be needed a piece of paper, and that is the moment when that generation is going to don't make won't find any sense in what say why our grandparents were working for a piece of paper. Does not make sense, and that is what we need. That is what we want. But they get to the realization that hey, that whole those all of those centuries were totally wrong. I mean, now we see it, and we are not going back to make that mistake again.
Yeah, well, I really think that it's just the big thing is having a sound money, and you know the fiat currency. It's not. It isn't money. It's currency, and it's being diluted. So if you look into the past, you can see all of the civilizations and societies that have done this in the past. They have destroyed the value of their money, and so they've destroyed their civilization. And so that
Yeah,
really is the point, is that you have to have sound money that is not manipulated, and you have to have free markets so that people can interact with each other voluntarily without anybody coming in to create regulations and try to distort the free market.
yeah,
And
exactly. And
and
I see. Yeah, sorry, continue.
no, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. I see money as a stepping stone. I mean, we cannot get rid of it until we find another stepping stone, so we can be we don't fall. So it's not going to happen from, I don't think, from one night to the other to the next day, but people will start to realize at some point that hey, and that is one of the things that I put it this way. When the human race was just beginning to walk around the earth, one of the first problems that we found that we don't have anything to eat. I mean, if you are not let's imagine that you are new on this place, you are this age, and you came to this earth alone, you don't have anything on you, just your hands and your brain. One of the first things you find is that you're hungry, you need something to eat, and if you don't find food, well, that is going to get a problem. And for that, we get this like an instinct is the to store for the future. So if and that is that you do that with everything, even with money. Money is just for that. Just you can store your economic power or your economic economic acquisitive power for the future. Um, And yes, it was formed like that. But then we started to develop more skills and very different skills. So some people are good for maths, some other people are good for chemistry, other people are really good at music or art, and some mechanics and things like that. So the problem was that if I have tomatoes and you have potatoes, we can exchange, and that was at the beginning. We exchange those goods in order for you to have a benefit and for me to also have a benefit. But how do I benefit from somebody who knows how to dance, and I don't need to know how to dance, or somebody who knows physics and I don't need to know physics? For example, I don't want to. I just have my tomatoes. How can I give you a tomato if what you have is not useful for me? That is the problem. So the skills are not compatible in most of the cases. But we know that now. We know that physics is very important. We know chemistry is very important. So those people probably don't know how to grow food, or how to make a house, or to build a house, or to develop software, but they have all skills that are useful for many other people. So that was the beginning of the market, when we invented money, because something has value for me and for you, and we exchange that, because I got this money with my skill, and with my skill I want your skill, and we exchange that. So what is happening is just people trying to exchange what they know in order to have a better quality of life. And for me, that is the market. That is to exchange your knowledge, your time, and your ideas with everybody else, in order for you and for the other guy to have a better quality of life. And that is something that I think, and I hope we can do it together, in order to develop these social interactions between people, so they can have that. And once they have, they will have, let's see, that technology is very important because it's replicable very easily. So if you have a software, I can have the same software on my cell phone or in my computer in in 5 minutes. In 5 minutes, and that is really really a revolution, because the Bitcoin just like that. Um, and the thing with this technology is that there's going to be at some point people that are, hey, I have a good idea. I know how. I found a way to create a motor, an engine that can be powered by solar power, with a solar cell. So if the guy knows how to do it and he offers the solution to everyone, now that could be used in another part of the world. And then another guy starts to develop another software or hardware or ideas, and those ideas are going to be free. I mean, free in the way that everyone can use it, just like Bitcoin, just like open source. That's something that we think we need to do, is just to expand the whole open source community and make it total. Everything has to be open source. Nature is open source, medicine, technology, transportation, all of those things. And when you have all of those things in an open source environment, you will say, hey, if I want to go, for example, to Italy or to China or the United States, and it happens that with this open source community, they have been developing all of this technology, and now a plane is made with all of these parts that are open source. So that plane is going to be really, really cheap, because who is going to ask for patents or things like that? If I take the engine from this guy who built that engine very powerful last year, and this guy created something for the electrical part that I need, and I start to take all of these ingredients in order to create the plane. And after a while, one of the tickets to go to another place on that plane will be very cheap. and we will start to see deflation a lot. And when the deflation comes to the top, I mean, the deflation will be that the prices go down to zero. And when that happens, the new people are going to start to say, hey, why do I need this bag full of papers? I don't know, why do I need this? Because if I can take this plane for a few cents, and if I go to China or if I go to Australia or another place, there are houses that are built by robots where I can stay. There are a lot of food being grown by automated. That is automated, so I won't be starving anywhere, and I can have clothes, whatever kind of clothes I want, because everything is automated. And at that time, they have the dynamic of working, traveling, going with their friends to bars and concerts, that they won't understand why somebody will need a bag of money in order to do all of that. That it will be our final game.
I totally agree, and I really am a big advocate for the open source hardware movement, and connected with Marcin Jakubowski, who does open source ecology project, where they're trying to develop all the tools that you would need, open source all the tools you would need to have a modern industrialized society. And we're getting there in the age that we live in right now. It is totally possible for the development of certain technologies to be open sourced, and it builds more of a collaborative society, in my opinion, and where we're cooperating to share our ideas to create that abundance that you're talking about, where eventually we won't even need money, because there's just so much abundance that's generated from everybody creating new technologies that support ourselves, and is able to take care of all of our basic needs. And in the model right now, it is centralized, where you have certain corporations working on these different ideas, and then you only have a small group of people working on these different ideas, and they guard the intellectual property, and it's not openly shared with other people. And a good example of this right now, open source ecology is one really good example on how this model works. And then another model is, from what I've been studying right now, is a technology called WasteBot, where this Ben Peterson guy has now created a new business model for this, which is about people that are involved with the technology. They now become like a partner in the technology development, and they become part of the research and development of the technology and an advocate for it, where you're going out and you get commission sales on the technology. You are able to grow enough with the technology, where you eventually can become a partner in the company, to where it's a brand new way of doing business, really, that encourages other people to get involved, have a stake in the game, and create more and more innovations, and share that with other people. So I think really the models going forward are going to involve a way of creating businesses and new hardware and technology that is able to decentralize that technology, so that people not only have a little bit of a stake in the game, in purchasing the technology, but they also become a developer of it, and they also become they truly get the knowledge on how to use the different technologies too. So I think education really has a really important part to play in the whole expansion of these open source technologies. And taking that waste spot workshop really opened my eyes on good business models for on these new technologies, which is to create an educational platform and to get the people that are interested in those technologies to sign up and be part of the educational platform before they purchase the hardware. And that way they really understand how the hardware works, and they become an advocate for it, and but it bypasses the traditional schooling system where you have to go get a degree in something. You now become almost like an apprentice of this technology, and then you fully understand it, and then you go out and actually become an integrated part of the business and everything. So I think there's these different models that exist now, and just like you're saying, I don't know if it'll all of these things will come to fruition in our lifetimes, but just the concepts and adopting the decentralized model on how to do things is planting the seed in people's minds right now. And I think it really does have to be an economic benefit for people to be involved with these different technologies to move forward. There needs to be some economic benefit now until there is that transition period where there is so much abundance, where there's so much abundance created by the technology that we have no purpose of even needing money anymore. But we have to get to that point.
And as I said, technology is easily replicable in every place. So actually, there comes a time when everyone could have a spaceship to go to other places in this galaxy, and for what? For nothing. I mean, you can park your spaceship near the sun and charge it for you to have enough fuel for, I don't know, hundreds of years. And we can explore a lot of things that we haven't even dreamed of. And yeah, I'm very, very excited. This change, I think, is going to be unique.
Yeah, I'm very optimistic myself. I'm very excited for the future because I hold these ideas in my mind, and right now I think it is it's the time for us to be demonstrating in our own communities, a different way to live, so that we can bypass the governments of the world, which are offering the solutions. But I think it's really two choices right now. It is the two choices. One, we go into that future of the abundance and using technology as our benefit, or technology, on the other hand, in the hands of the powers that should not be right now. If they have all the hold of all the technology, then we turn into like a slave society and perpetuate the slavery of humanity on this planet. Yeah. And so we're really coming down to those two options right now. And I think right now is the time to get outside of the systems as they stand right now, by becoming as self-reliant as possible and helping your friends and your neighbors to do that as well, being the example for them and showing them that there is another way. And exactly the things that we're talking about. We're not waiting for other solutions from governments. We're trying to develop. We're attempting to build the solutions together, and to show people by our actions, by our own actions in our community, and showing that outwardly that there is another way.
Yeah, better ways. And I wanted to make to say something very clear. I mean, because I'm the type of person that if for example, I see or I know that you or anyone in the world is doing the same, but in another way, for example, and it's getting closer to that goal, to that end, I will immediately stop what I'm doing I'm going to offer my help to that guy. Hey, you know what you want, and you are very, very close to that. I want it too. So let me help you. So
Yeah,
that's really
yeah,
important.
yeah. I think that is really important. Is to find the folks that are in your community that are focused on trying to be more self reliant, grow their own food, and do those things to support those people and to uh, to 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 see if you can get involved in any way if you're not in that self reliant mode yourself. To see if you can help your local farmer, maybe get involved with buying groceries from them, like you're saying, instead of going to shop at the supermarket or whatever, to support them directly. And I know in the United States right now, it's pretty much shut down all small businesses with this whole hysteria and everything. So maybe you could talk. What are you seeing in your area? How are people reacting to what's going on in the world right now down in Ecuador?
For example, well, as you said, these big companies are trying to get rid of the small competitors. And for example, in Mexico, there is a company called Oxxo. There
Yeah,
is the same thing in Colombia for something called the D1, and in Ecuador there is something called Okidoki. It's the same. If they want to get rid of those small family business, because if they have their customers, the small ones don't won't have any other chance, and they will have to shut their business. They will shut their businesses down. So, but that's something they have right now. For example, in Ecuador and here in Colombia and probably in Mexico too, that those companies have for at least 6 or 7 years, maybe more, and they haven't get rid of the smaller competitors. And you know why? Because the Latin American part of the culture of Latin American people is that they help a lot to their neighbors. I mean, if you have
yeah,
a small store, in you have your family has a small store, all of your customers are your neighbors,
yeah,
people that pass by, and even they have very close the supermarket, they still go to the small one.
yeah, yeah.
That's
That's cool, and that's like one of the big things in the United States culture is that we've really shifted away from that. A lot of
Yeah, since
people,
the 60s, since 60s, 50, for example, yes, because those small stores, they were also in the United States. I remember I saw the picture, and on the 60s movie, there wasn't any Walmart, there wasn't any Costco or things like that. And yeah, as you are on the first line, of the show, that happened really quickly to all of you.
yeah, yeah, and that's what I really appreciate about the Latin American culture is that people are more like oriented toward community and family down there, and
Yeah,
they try to take care of each other a lot more. And in the U.S., it has become so disconnected. People have become so disconnected from each other. I guess because of the abundance of the wealth that has been in the U.S., is that
yeah,
people haven't had to rely on their friends or their neighbors as much, and so it's actually kind of separated all of us a lot.
yeah,
So that's a difference in the cultures right now, and one of the things that is probably going to be more difficult, and why it may be more difficult in the U.S. to come out of this whole thing, is that people are so are in that kind of disconnected state. But I think it starts with every individual to take a little bit of what you're doing. I like this interview with Stefan Verstappen. He's like a survivalist up in Canada. But one of the things that he talked about that I listened to on a podcast recently was that everything that you're doing, you want to share 10% and donate 10% to your neighbors. So if you're working on this big garden, help your neighbors get a little bit of a garden started. Share some, at least share some seeds with them. that what you're doing. So everybody is going to be in a better position as food shortages may show up, and our food supply chain gets disrupted through this whole thing.
Right. That's great. Oh, I wanted to, well, that all of the people that you know, all of the people I know, we should probably have to have this conversation with more people. I mean,
Yeah.
make like that panel and see what we can do. I think I can I because we are looking for funds in order to get this thing going, and I know we are really close. But you know why I know that, or what I feel that way is because of I'm starting to feel that the people that I have been talking to all of these years and months are getting more confident and have more trust. That is very difficult. I mean, if you can accept or even understand the idea that I am telling, but if you don't trust me, or if you think I probably this guy is going to do something that is going to harm everyone, and and that is for the common investor. I mean, the investors that we are trying to catch. Um, First of all, they understand the problem. I mean, they understand the fiat money system, they understand politics, and they know that this is going to take us in the wrong direction. But still, I have to spend time talking and bothering them and asking for them to have meetings, calls, in order and showing them our results, what we are advancing, our steps, and so they can trust that we are going to make a good use of their money. And that is something that that's the hardest part, to get to the other people, to the other guy, to say, I I understand. I want to help you, and I trust you can do it. That's
Well, yeah, I have some options that I can share with you as well for that, and something that helped me develop the trailer that I worked on and built, the technology that I built was there's something that exists called Fundition.io, and anybody that has a
okay.
project like you're talking about, you can create that on that site, and then as you are developing the project, you're putting updates on there, and then people can decide to give more to the project or whatever based on your continuous updates and progress along with the project, and so that's just one option, and then yeah, there's multiple other options like launching your own educational platform or something like that, where you can do like show and demonstrate and teach other people about the technology, so that you're bootstrapping the idea essentially,
Right.
so that you are building that trust with people over time on on showing people how to utilize certain technology and everything like that. So these are all things that I'm trying to work on, because I very much want to do what you're talking about, is get the information out to more people. And I really think to stay decentralized, that's the important part, is to get the education and knowledge out to people so that they can take that and implement it in their own local area, so that there's not just one person to focus on. There's not just one business to focus on that can be taken down or disrupted in some way. Is that it stays decentralized, and it's about getting the knowledge out to people. And once they have that knowledge, just like you're saying, the abundance generation just continues and can build from there. If you understand what I'm
Yes.
saying.
Sure. Sure. We have a similar mindset. We have the kind of the same mindset. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. That's great. Okay, my friend. I don't know
Okay.
if you have any more questions. I want to make this as a compromise for us in order to get more people involved. As I said, I have already this panel being that we are going to group for probably the next week or in the coming the coming 2 weeks, in the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
And I hope you can be part of that panel. I hope you can have time to be with us in that meeting.
I
And
would
after
love
that,
to. Yeah,
great,
please share the information with me. You have me in Discord, and then
sure,
also let's stay in touch through email and everything too, and I'll give you
sure.
make sure to get you my email, and love to participate in that.
Thank you so much, my friend.